So Putin is scared, but not in the way that you think. So I'm going to talk about the drone attacks that just happened. I'm going to talk about the parade that's being perhaps tamped down or maybe won't happen or something along those lines. And I'm going to show you, if you just stick with me for just a little bit, how Putin is afraid and give you evidence of it. Okay, so here we go. So we're going to start with this. This is the drone attacks, the video about the drone attacks here now.
Those claims out of Russia that Ukrainian forces tried to strike Russian President Vladimir Putin's residence at the Kremlin with 2 drones. Now, Russia provided no evidence. Ukraine is denying any role. Let's get right to NBC News chief foreign correspondent Richard Engel and retired Lieutenant General Steph Twitty. Richard, these are unproven claims coming from Russia, not backed by evidence right now. What more do we know about the situation right now?
So we know there are quite a few videos, and our social media verification team here in London has been poring over these videos, and their job is to troll the internet, and they do that every single day, to look at videos, try and understand what happened, trying to see if they're real or not. And generally, in incidents, what happens is you get a video, it catches on like wildfire, and it spreads across the internet. What happened in this case is not nearly as organic. These times are all in Russia. So the first video came out at 2:37 local time, Moscow time, and that showed the aftermath, or what claimed to be the aftermath of some sort of drone attack against the Kremlin. So you see a little bit of smoke. Then there's nothing else. And that first video, which was posted on Telegram, which is an encrypted app, which is very popular in Russia and all across Eastern Europe, was the first and only video. Then there's a 12-hour gap, roughly, in which nothing was posted at all, and then several videos suddenly emerge, almost at the same time, around 3 p.m. local Moscow time. And those videos were of a high quality. They showed the aftermath of this alleged attack, and also showed the video of the Kremlin before the attack took place, and show what appears to be a drone flying at high speed and exploding as it impacts, or as it about to impact a dome inside the Kremlin compound. And that when this second batch of videos came out, again, high quality, they look like they were taken from security camera footage. In one of the videos, the best video, you can actually see someone, if you zoom in on it, using what looks like a cell phone to take video of the security camera video. As those were put out, that is when the Kremlin started issuing its statements, saying that this was an attack by Kyiv, that this was an attack against Vladimir Putin, that it was an assassination attempt, and that Moscow reserves the right to respond at a time.
Okay, so that's really the key. So it seems very suspicious, but it could have been a number of things. It could have been Kyiv, it could have been locals, it could have been a false flag operation that they set so that they can do something else. That's what we know about the actual drone themselves. Okay, so here's CBS News. Russia claims Ukraine tried to attack Kremlin with drones in terrorist attack targeting Vladimir Putin. Okay, first, that's not a terrorist attack. In a time of warfare, attacking the Kremlin would actually be a legitimate target for Ukraine, since Ukraine has been under siege for more than a year. Russian authorities accused Ukraine on Wednesday of attempting to attack the Kremlin with 2 drones overnight. The Kremlin decried the alleged attack as a terrorist attack, but that's not the definition of a terrorist attack. However, the Russians may very well use that to justify terror strikes. So here you go. Ukraine presidential advisor Mikhailo Polodek said that the claims could be used by Russia as a pretext to justify massive strikes on Ukrainian cities, on the civilian population, on infrastructure facilities in the day ahead. That's probably likely what's going on. But why? What are they afraid of that they're stooping to that? Here's Dmitry Medvedev talking about Russia has no choice now but to annihilate Zelensky, as if you could have done it, you wouldn't have done it already. You've tried, but you weren't able to. After the Ukrainian drone attacks on the Kremlin, Russia has no options but to annihilate Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky, says Dmitry Medvedev. Okay, here's another article in Pravda. Kremlin drone strike could test Moscow's air defenses. The attack on the Kremlin, with the use of unmanned aerial vehicles, could be needed to test Moscow's air defense system. Well, that could be it. The drone could be launched from somewhere. Now, this was a really interesting thing that they added in Pravda. The drone could be launched from somewhere in the Moscow region. It could be flying at the lowest possible altitude, 300 to 400 meters above the ground. right? So it's not likely that something that tiny came from Ukrainian territory all the way over there. Could have been local. Now, this is a key to what they're actually afraid of. On May 3rd, Ukraine allegedly tried to use two UAVs to attack Putin's Kremlin residence in Moscow. One of the drones crashed into the roof of the Senate Palace of the Kremlin. No one was hurt. No damage was reported either. Putin was not staying inside the Kremlin at the moment of the incident. Okay, so it seems to me that there's something else going on here. Now, the something else going on here is an article that was written the day before. This is the BBC talking about the Victory Day celebrations being scaled way back. Okay, so Ukraine war, Russia scales back Victory Day celebrations, BBC. This was yesterday when the drone attack happened overnight. Russian authorities have cited security reasons and attacks from pro-Ukrainian forces for the changes. They might be attacking the parade. So did they know something, like they were working with something, or are they worried about drone attacks on the population? Keep reading. But some have argued that the reduced events show the Kremlin is nervous about celebrations turning into shows of dissent against the invasion in Ukraine. That's what they're actually worried about. So they are afraid, but they're not afraid of the people getting blown up or something. They're afraid of the people actually coming out with, okay, so they have this long line. The Victory Day parade marks the Soviet Union's victory over Nazi Germany on May 9th, 1945. One of the day's most recognizable events is the Immortal Regiment procession. Now, if you're not familiar with the Immortal Regiment procession, they walk along and they hold up a picture of someone that they know that was in World War II, or their grandparent in World War II, or a friend or something, and they become one with the Immortal Regiment by symbolically walking with them. It's actually a very brilliant thing to enculturate people into a particular idea. I got to give them credit for that concept. Okay, but now think about that's what they're going to do, and this is what could happen. Last year, President Vladimir Putin led the procession across Red Square in Moscow while holding a photograph of his father in uniform. This year, however, the Immortal Regiment, quote, will be held in other formats for security reasons, unquote, lawmaker and organizer told journalists. To commemorate the relatives, they should instead place photos of war veterans in car windows, transfer image to item of clothing, or change their social media avatars. Now, one journalist has said something that I think is right on target. Dmitry Koleves, a journalist and editor of a liberal news website, now living in exile, said that had the procession not been canceled, people would have, quote, almost certainly come to the Immortal Regiment with portraits of those who died in Ukraine. And the number of recent photographs may turn out to be depressingly large. Mr. Koleves also said that the authorities might be concerned that a large gathering of people could snowball into a show of dissent. Quote, history knows of examples when loyal events turn into protests. Now, Putin is terribly scared of the green and orange and all the other color revolutions coming to his territory. He's been worried about that for years, and that's the kind of thing that could happen here with the Immortal Regiment. And the article goes on and says, he said that the Kremlin might fear that the procession will show too many portraits of those who died not 80 years ago, but over the past year. Kremlin spokesperson Dmitry Peskov said that Russia's security services were working to ensure the safety of the parade against terrorist attacks, but it's not terrorist attacks that they're afraid of. They are afraid that the people will be kind of cluing into what's going on in Ukraine and be showing that, and it could snowball into something very bad. So Putin's afraid, but he's not afraid of a drone striking the Kremlin or a drone hitting the people on the streets during the Immortal procession. He's afraid of the people waking up from their slumber and walking with pictures of their loved ones lost in Ukraine, because enough of them have been lost. So that's how I perceive this. How do you think about it? Hey, thank you for your time. Thank you for being the kind of person that cares about Ukraine.